She had $5,000, a crazy idea, and zero connections. Every single manufacturer she approached laughed at her. Every door she knocked on closed in her face. And the people who loved her most told her she was wasting her time. She ignored every single one of them and built a billion-dollar empire entirely on her own. This is the story of Sara Blakely, and it begins not in a boardroom or a business school. It begins on a doorstep in Florida with a woman trying to sell a fax machine. Sara Blakely was born on the 27th of February, 1971, in Clearwater, Florida. From the very beginning, her father raised her differently to most. Every single day when she came home from school, he would ask her the same question. Not what did you learn today? Not what did you achieve today? He asked her, what did you fail at today? If she had no answer, he was disappointed, because in the Blakely household, failure wasn't something to be ashamed of. Failure meant you were trying. Failure meant you were pushing. Failure meant you were alive. That single lesson would one day change everything. After graduating from Florida State University, Sara had big dreams of becoming a lawyer. She took the LSAT, the law school entrance exam, twice. She failed it both times. Plan A was gone, so she took a job selling fax machines door to door. For 7 years, Sara Blakely knocked on strangers' doors across Florida, trying to sell office equipment nobody wanted. She faced rejection every single day. She later admitted that some days it became so overwhelming, she would pull her car over to the side of the road and sit there crying, too afraid to knock on the next door. But she always knocked anyway, because her father had taught her that the word no was not the end. It was just part of the journey. For 7 years, she sold fax machines. And for 7 years, something else was quietly growing inside her. An idea. A simple, practical, slightly ridiculous idea. One evening, Sara was getting ready for a party. She wanted to wear a pair of cream-colored trousers, but couldn't find the right undergarment to wear underneath them. Everything was uncomfortable. Everything showed lines. Everything was wrong. So she took a pair of ordinary tights and cut the fat off. She looked in the mirror. It worked perfectly. She thought, why doesn't this exist already? Why hasn't anyone made this? That moment, standing in front of a mirror with a pair of footless tights, was the beginning of Spanx. Sara had $5,000 in savings. That was everything she had. No investors, no business partners, no industry connections whatsoever. Just $5,000 and an idea she refused to let go of. She spent the next 2 years researching the hosiery industry in secret. She told almost nobody. She was afraid that if she shared the idea too early, someone would talk her out of it. She wrote in her journal one night, I want to invent a product that makes women feel good about themselves. Then she got to work. She contacted hosiery manufacturers across North Carolina, asking them to produce her prototype. Every single one said no. She was a nobody. She had no experience. She had no backing. The industry was dominated almost entirely by men, men who wore suits and trousers, and had absolutely no interest in footless pantyhose. They told her the idea was crazy. They told her it would never sell. One by one, they hung up the phone. No, no, no. But Sara Blakely had spent 7 years being told no every single day. She was not afraid of it anymore. She got in her car and drove to the hosiery mills in person. She walked through their doors and showed them the product herself. They turned her down to her face. She drove home. She called more manufacturers. She heard more no's. And then one day, weeks later, her phone rang. It was a mill owner in Charlotte, North Carolina. He said, Sara, I've decided to help make your crazy idea. She asked him why he had changed his mind. He told her he had gone home and told his daughters about the strange young woman with the footless tights idea. And his daughters had looked at him and said, "Dad, that is a brilliant idea. One, yes, after months of rejection. One man whose daughters understood what the men never could. That was enough." Sara Blakely now had a manufacturer, but she still had no patent lawyer, no marketing team, and no retailer willing to stock her product. So she went to the library and read patent books herself. She wrote her own patent application from scratch to save money. Then she cold called Neiman Marcus, one of the most prestigious department stores in America. She got through to a buyer. She had 10 minutes to make her case. Sara asked the buyer to follow her to the bathroom. Right there in the Neiman Marcus offices, Sara changed into the cream trousers and showed the buyer the difference Spanx made. The buyer agreed to stock the product in 7 stores. 7 stores. Not a national deal. Not a guarantee of success. Just 7 stores. Sara had no advertising budget whatsoever, so she drove to every single one of those 7 stores herself. She reorganized the displays. She spoke to the sales assistants personally. She made sure every person on that floor understood exactly what Spanx was and who it was for. And then she called every woman she knew. She asked them to go into Neiman Marcus and buy a pair of Spanx. She was building a movement one person at a time. And slowly it started to work. Women tried Spanx and told their friends. Their friends told their friends. The 7 Neiman Marcus stores started selling out. And then one day the phone rang again. It was the team at the Oprah Winfrey Show. Oprah had tried Spanx herself. She loved them. She named Spanx one of her favorite things of the year. Overnight, Sara Blakely's company was transformed. Orders flooded in from across the country. Spanx became one of the fastest growing companies in America. Sara Blakely had started with $5,000 and no support. She had been rejected by every manufacturer she approached. She had no lawyer, no investor, no mentor, and no roadmap. She built Spanx entirely alone from her apartment bedroom. In 2012, just 12 years after launching with that $5,000, Sara Blakely became the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. Her personal net worth reached $1.2 billion. She had never taken a single outside investor. She owned every single share of Spanx herself, and she had done it all starting with a pair of scissors and a pair of tights. So what does Sara Blakely's story mean for you? It means that your idea, the one you haven't told anyone about yet, deserves a chance. It means that rejection from the wrong people is simply redirection toward the right ones. It means that you don't need permission, or investors, or industry contacts to begin. You need belief. You need persistence. And you need to be willing to drive to the next door after the last one closed in your face. Sara Blakely failed her law exams twice. She spent 7 years being told no every single day. Every manufacturer she approached laughed at her idea, and she built a billion-dollar empire anyway, because she understood something most people never learn. Failure is not the outcome. Failure is not trying. The only real failure is the door you never knock on. If this story inspired you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories of extraordinary people who refuse to quit, subscribe to Luminary Rising, because we have so many more to tell. Until next time, keep believing, keep going. Your idea is worth more than you think.